You are not tired because you work too much. You are exhausted because your life is not yours. Every day you wake up already negotiating with invisible judges. What should I say? How should I act? What will they think? You make dozens of micro-decisions before breakfast, all designed to avoid disapproval rather than to pursue truth. That constant self-monitoring is not maturity, it is captivity. And the most dangerous part is that no one chained you physically. You volunteered. You learned early that approval meant safety, that obedience meant belonging, and that resistance meant isolation. Machiavelli understood something most modern minds refuse to face. The fastest way to enslave a human being is not through force, but through morality. Living for others feels noble on the surface. It wears the costume of kindness, responsibility, and virtue. But beneath it is a brutal psychological exchange. You trade autonomy for acceptance. You trade instinct for permission. You trade power for peace. And in that trade, you always lose. The moment your identity becomes dependent on how others perceive you, you are no longer sovereign. You are managed. You are regulated by mood, expectation, and fear. Machiavelli never wrote for people who wanted comfort. He wrote for those who wanted clarity, and his clarity was merciless. A man who cannot live by his own will always live by someone else's. From childhood, you were conditioned to associate goodness with compliance. Good children listen. Good students behave. Good employees don't question. Good partners sacrifice. Over time, obedience stopped being a behavior and became a personality. You were rewarded not for strength, but for predictability. You learned that harmony mattered more than truth and that conflict meant danger. What you were never taught is that conflict is not the enemy of order. Submission is. When you suppress your will long enough, it doesn't disappear, it decays. And that decay becomes resentment, anxiety, passivity, and eventually self-contempt. Machiavelli observed human nature without romance. He saw that most people do not respect sacrifice, they exploit it. When you consistently put others first, you are not seen as virtuous, you are seen as usable. Your availability becomes expected, your boundaries become negotiable, your time becomes public property. And when you finally say no, when you finally assert yourself, the backlash feels shocking, but it shouldn't. You trained them to take. Of course they are angry when you stop giving. Slavery does not begin when someone takes your freedom. It begins when they feel entitled to it. Living for others places you in a constant defensive posture. You explain yourself, you justify your choices, you soften your words, you apologize for clarity, you edit your ambition so it doesn't threaten anyone. This is not humility, this is self-erasure. Machiavelli warned that those who try to please everyone end up despised by all, including themselves. Respect does not grow from accommodation, it grows from boundaries. People do not follow those who bend, they follow those who stand. The most insidious part of psychological slavery is that it disguises itself as morality. You tell yourself you are being patient, understanding, selfless, but look honestly at the cost. How many decisions have you postponed because someone might disapprove? How many opportunities have you declined because they disrupted expectations? How many truths have you swallowed to preserve comfort? Over time, this self-betrayal accumulates. You wake up one day with a stable life that feels hollow. You followed the rules and still feel empty. That emptiness is not confusion, it is grief for the self you abandoned. Machiavelli believed that power begins internally, long before it appears externally. A person who cannot tolerate disapproval cannot tolerate leadership. A person who needs validation cannot command respect. When you live for others, you outsource your compass. Your sense of right and wrong becomes reactive. You are no longer asking what is true, but what is acceptable.
This makes you predictable, and predictability is exploitable. Anyone who understands your fears can steer you. All they have to do is threaten withdrawal of approval. This is why guilt is such a powerful weapon. Guilt keeps you compliant without force. It makes you police yourself. You feel guilty for wanting more, for needing space, for choosing differently. Guilt Machiavelli recognized as a tool of control long before modern psychology named it. He understood that people who are afraid of being judged will judge themselves first, saving others the effort. When guilt governs you, you are never free, even when alone. Living for yourself does not mean becoming cruel or indifferent. It means reclaiming authorship. It means deciding that your life is not a public service. Your time is finite. Your energy is non-renewable. Your attention is priceless. Every moment spent managing perception is a moment stolen from creation. Machiavelli would ask a simple question: who benefits from your obedience? Because it is rarely you. The transition away from psychological slavery is uncomfortable. The first thing you will experience is resistance. People will accuse you of changing. They will call you selfish, distant, cold. These accusations are not diagnoses, they are withdrawals. You are removing a resource they relied on. Of course they protest. This is where most people retreat. They return to old patterns to restore peace. Machiavelli would tell you that peace purchased with submission is not peace. It is a truce fire that only benefits your captors. To live for yourself, you must become comfortable with being misunderstood. You must let others form opinions without correcting them. You must resist the urge to explain your choices. Explanation is often a request for permission, disguised as clarity. Strong people act, weak people justify. When your actions are aligned with your values, explanation becomes unnecessary. Those who matter will adjust. Those who don't will leave. Both outcomes are acceptable. Silence becomes one of your greatest tools, not the silence of fear, but the silence of authority. You stop volunteering information. You stop narrating your inner world. You stop seeking consensus for personal decisions. This creates gravity. People lean in when you stop leaning out. Machiavelli understood that mystery is not deception, it is protection. When everything about you is accessible, nothing about you is respected. As you detach from external validation, something unexpected happens. Your anxiety decreases, not because life becomes easier, but because your nervous system is no longer bracing for judgment. You begin to act from intention rather than reaction. You choose rather than comply. This is psychological sovereignty, and sovereignty always comes before power. You cannot rule anything if you cannot rule yourself. Living for yourself also reveals who truly belongs in your life. Relationships built on dependency collapse when independence appears. Relationships built on respect strengthen. This sorting process feels lonely at first, but solitude is not emptiness, it is clarity without interference. Machiavelli spent years in exile, stripped of position and favor, and yet, in isolation, he produced ideas that outlived empires. Solitude did not weaken him, it refined him. The greatest lie you were told is that self-sacrifice guarantees love. It does not. It guarantees use. Love grows where strength exists. Respect precedes affection. People value what does not beg. When you live for yourself, you become grounded, and grounded people become reference points. Others orient around them, not because they demand loyalty, but because stability attracts. There is a reason societies subtly discourage self-directed individuals. They are harder to control. They do not respond predictably to shame or praise. They cannot be easily mobilized by fear. Machiavelli knew that a sovereign mind is the most dangerous force in any system. That is why conformity is praised and independence is pathologized. But history is not shaped by the obedient. It is shaped by those willing to endure disapproval. Living for yourself requires discipline. You must guard your time ruthlessly. You must say no without apology. You must detach from outcomes that depend on others' approval. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. When your internal hierarchy is clear, your external life stabilizes. Chaos thrives where identity is negotiable. In the end, psychological slavery is not imposed, it is accepted, and freedom is not granted, it is claimed. The moment you stop living as a supporting character in other people's narratives, your life acquires weight. Your words slow, your actions sharpen, your presence changes. You stop chasing belonging and start creating direction. Machiavelli did not promise happiness, he promised reality, and
He promised reality, and reality demands courage. The courage to be disliked, the courage to disappoint, the courage to choose yourself even when no one applauds. That courage is the dividing line between those who live and those who perform living. You were not born to manage expectations, you were born to build something true. And the moment you stop living for others, the invisible chains fall away. Not because the world changed, but because you did. If this message forced you to confront something uncomfortable, that's a sign it mattered. If you know someone who is still living for approval, share this with them. If you want more philosophy that cuts through illusion instead of comforting it, subscribe. Leave a comment with what you're reclaiming control over. And remember, freedom doesn't begin when others agree with you. It begins when you no longer need them to.